welcome back to the NXT-GEN podcast. Here today with Dax, of course, and a guest of ours, probably one of the worst blokes I know. He's an absolute legend, Big Slip. Slip's going to tell us where he came from, where he is now, and the things that have kind of led him to where he is and to the experience that he's had in life, because there is quite a story to yourself, young sir. Dax, anything you want to touch on before we start?
Funny fact. I literally did not know your name. I just knew you as Slip. And the first time I was driving out to talk to where you work, which we'll get into, I had to ring Jake and go, bro, what's his name? And he goes, Slip. And I was like, nah, it's like, what's his name? He goes, I don't know, I'll check on Facebook. We're checking on Facebook. Realise you don't have Facebook. I'm like, oh, fuck. And I sat there, I had to ring about 3 or 4 different people, and they go, his name's Steve. I'm like, you're setting me up. And then I went out there, and I remember I still wasn't sure, and I go, they actually go, Steve. And I go, thank God.
Man, RSM, I'd already known you for a couple of years, and he was like, can you send that email? I was like, I've sent it ages ago, man.
Oh, true.
And then he wrote back, he goes, I didn't know your name was Steve.
I was like, I just saw Steve Morris come up, and I was like, what does this guy want? Delete.
So I sent it again, and he's like, oh, your name's Steve.
Oh, classic.
Cool to get into it then?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. All right, so Slip, let's go back to the start. Sort of, where did things start to happen in your life that sort of led you down, let's say, the wrong path?
Well, I suppose it happened a lot before that, really.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose from a young... I grew up in small country towns, and obviously sport was a big part of my life early on. So I was that continued on for me, where I ended up going to Sydney for a while for sport, for rugby league. And I suppose being around that environment of drinking, partying, all that sort of stuff. And I wasn't a kid as a teenager who did that stuff. And what I learnt later on, I guess, was... I was a kid who had some stuff going on inside my head that I'd never dealt with. And as soon as I started drinking at literally 18, because I never drank before that, it started to give me some feelings I'd never had, you know what I mean? But it started to give me confidence, and, you know, I could talk to anyone. But I was naturally a shy, withdrawn kid. So when I started drinking and using party drugs, it gave me a feeling that I wanted more of it.
Because you were, like, pretty decent at footy, eh? From what I've seen and what I've read, I'm not like, you can admit it, like you were working your way up there towards playing first grade, like NRL, true?
Yeah.
And do you feel like when you see a lot of things in the media these days, like high-profile players getting in shit for using drugs and alcohol and stuff like that, do you think it's just because it's the lifestyle that they live, and you're just so locked into training and stuff, when you get that little outlet, it just rolls out? Yes. Is that what sort of happens with... Because, I mean, I never really made it in footy that far, so...
Well, there's so many different elements to it. Like, every single person drinks for a different reason.
Yeah.
Every single person uses drugs for a different reason. But, I mean, I was a young kid, and as I said, I was a kid who was, no matter what it is, like, I know now, like, even through just to becoming a teenager, 13, 14, 15, I'd make and captain all these representative sides, state sides, but I'd never feel like I was as good as the other kids. And I'd always I'd ring mum and be like, oh, you know, I'm going to fake an injury, I don't want to go because the fear of failure, all that sort of stuff. And then at 16, things took off for me, you know what I mean? I ended up captaining the country and went on this big tour, and then that's where I signed my first NRL contract at 16.
Yeah, so I wasn't talking shit. You can admit it. You were working your way up there.
Yeah. So I went from the country, and then I went to the Australian Institute of Sport for a little bit, and then from there I ended up doing a tour of a couple of different clubs. I went down to Melbourne Storm for a 2-week camp, and trained with the first grade squad at 16.
Yeah.
And then I went to the West Tigers, and I ended up going to the West Tigers because I ended up getting a scholarship to St Gregory's College out of that.
Yeah. Which is sports high?
Yeah, it's a sports high school. It's sort of like a rugby league nursery for the West Tigers players.
Okay. Yeah.
So I went there in year 12, and I think that's where things started to turn for me.
Yeah.
I was a kid who was going, you know, I lived at school as a boarder, But then 3 or 4 nights a week I was going and training, and there was like Benji Marshall and Robbie Farrer and stuff like that. And then I'd have to get in the car and go back to school.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was a kid with low self-esteem at school.
Yeah, yeah.
But then I was getting all this West Tigers gear. I'd come back and I was starting to build an ego.
Yeah.
So I'd have low self-esteem and a big ego, and it was a ticking time bomb, really.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
So, I mean, for me, I don't know anything. I only know the Man Yard now. I don't know your past. I don't know the story. So this is around, 18 years old? Sort of like 16 to 18 is when sort of like a footy came in.
Before we get into that, just like to lead into that, I where I met Slip was just come into our store, but become a customer, more regularly come in. We talk training, diets, blah 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 blah, and then I never really knew your background or your history or past, which to be honest I don't really care about anyone's fucking past. I find it interesting, but I judge them on who I meet in front of me. And I remember you come in one day and you're pulling up on your phone and do you remember that? And you go, and you show me this article. I'm thinking, what am I reading? And I'm reading and like that. I'm going, fuck, who's this Steve Morris? Still didn't know your name. And I'm like, and then I looked at the photo and it was you. And I was like, what the fuck? And I was like, that's pretty heavy. That's a heavy background. That's, that's, and then I was like, oh, well, fair enough. And then I guess that's what you lead into. You can explain what I was reading on that article, the newspaper.
Yeah. There's obviously been some dark times, but there's been some good times. Like everyone that I suppose drinks and drugs and stuff like that. Not every time you go and use or drink, it's a bad time. But to the amount that I did it, I started drinking at 18, and I didn't stop till I was 27. So it took control of my life immediately, you know what I mean? I stopped going to train. So I finished school at St Gregory's College in year 12, and then I got offered a 3-year contract from Cronulla Sharks, and I ended up taking that. So as soon as I finished school, I went over to Cronulla, and I went straight into a unit that they got me sort of down on the beach, and they said, we'll meet you around at training for all your testing and stuff. And I still remember walking in, dropping my bags in my own unit and thinking, fuck, what do I do now? I don't know how to cook, wash, iron, fold my clothes. I don't know how to do too much, but I was that kid who never ever asked for help. Like whatever was my shit was my shit. You know what I mean? I didn't want anyone to know, but that's where things started to take a turn for me. I started to drink. It was off season when I started there. You know what I mean? So the party life in Cronulla is pretty hectic as it is, and then obviously the party drugs. Ecstasy and cocaine and speed and all that sort of stuff came in, but unfortunately when the drugs came into my life, anger came out. You know what I mean? When alcohol came in, it was a bit of confidence, it was a bit of ego. I could talk, I could, I'd feel good about myself. But when drugs come in, I suppose a lot of emotions and a lot of anger came out, which ended up getting me in quite a bit of trouble.
Yeah,
Sweet.
and obviously do not drop names, but it was sort of common in the off season of some football clubs, party.
Yeah, party life pretty prominent. You know what I mean? And it's sort of,
and like I said before, do you feel like because you're just so locked in, like you'd probably train 2-3 times a day?
Yeah, so
time?
you'd go to training at 6 in the morning,
Yeah.
and sometimes you wouldn't go home till 7 at night.
Yeah,
so
like it's work.
Yeah, you go and you'll have your 2-hour morning session, and then you'll just have your lunch and a sleep at the clubhouse throughout the day.
And you just don't have any time to socialise to girls or and stuff like that. So I guess when you just got the opportunity, that's sort of where it
went off.
went off. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So you said from like 18 to 27 was pretty much full-time drinking, right?
It was an absolute.
So you were balancing that and footy.
No, I didn't manage footy at all. Out of that 3-year contract at Cronulla, I was there for 3 months. Like, that's how quickly it grabbed hold of me, and I ended up getting locked up one night from fighting a police officer. And as soon as I got out, I left and went back to Orange, where my mum and dad were at the time with my little brother. And back there, I suppose now you can get paid some good money to play country rugby league. $1,000 a game, $800 a game. So I just went and did that for a while, but still I couldn't even sustain that, because when I left Sydney, blokes I started to hang around when I moved back to the country, they were already on harder drugs, you know what I mean, on ice and stuff like that. And I just didn't really have any want for anything else, you know what I mean? So that's where I jumped straight into ice, you know what I mean? And I was on that for 6.5, 7 years.
I can imagine that'd be a pretty quick downward spiral.
Yeah, man. I was a kid who always had morals. I was always kind. Mum's friends, they always, they loved me. They were all, everyone knew I was a kind person. but as soon as I got on ice, like there was time, like my mum and dad couldn't even have me in the house. They wouldn't let me in. You know what I mean? Like, people just wipe me. The way you think about yourself, the way you think about others, the stuff you've got to do to get what you need to get. It's it's stuff I can never take back, but it's stuff I'd done to do what I had to do.
Over what period of time are we talking? Like 2 years, 3 years, 4 years?
No, it's a good 6, 7 years.
Yeah,
I was gone, man.
Yeah.
I couch surfed. I lived in cars. I lived in and out of mental health wards and facilities for long periods. I moved a lot. Like I've probably lived in 10 different towns because I always thought that the location was the problem. I wasn't the problem. I'd move away, but unfortunately, every time I moved, I took the problem with me.
Yeah.
So you would basically say you rock bottom.
There's been some times, you know what, I've probably had a couple of rock bottoms, but I didn't know they were my rock bottoms at the time.
And obviously your partner now, did you meet her during this period? Or?
Yeah.
And how did she handle that?
Well, it was a different sort of situation. She was living in Sydney at the time with her mum and her brother. So her younger brother, Deej, he was a good footballer.
Oh, the one that plays for Toukley?
He plays for Toukley now, yeah. But he signed with the Bunnies, and he was down. So they moved down there to support him while he was playing with the first grade squad.
Yeah.
And I was living out in Wagga at the time. I'd just been evicted from a unit that the football club got me. I had a Mitsubishi Magna I was living in.
Yeah.
I
saw everyone had a Mitsubishi Magna at one stage.
The old droop roof.
The roof had hanging down
So I was trying to get well because I'd done that much damage previously. And an ex-footballer, Joey Williams, he played for the Bunnies and the Bulldogs and stuff.
Yeah.
Him and his father were out there and they owned a boxing gym. So I went there and he'd been through a bit and he was sober. So he said, sort of just follow my lead. But I couldn't get it. And then I went out one night and it was a comedy night, and I went out with a couple of boys in Wagga, and my wife now, she was in Wagga visiting family she had there, and I met her then. Yeah. But I mean, you can spin some stuff to make your life seem a little bit different than what it is. You know what I mean?
For sure.
And then she went back to Sydney, and then we kept talking. Yeah. She come out again. I'd literally just hire something to sleep in, you know what I mean? She's like, let's stay at yours. I was like, no, it's messy, but I was living in a car. I couldn't stay there, you know what I mean? Yeah. But things progressed pretty quickly. I went down to stay with her for a little bit, and then only after 3 or 4 months, she fell pregnant with my first daughter. Mm-hmm. But before that, it was chaos. I don't think it was my rock bottom where I turned my life. I'd had rock bottoms years before where I probably should have stopped. Like I probably should have died, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember you sent me that clip as well. I swear it was like ABC or something.
Yeah.
Was that or am I tripping?
Yeah. I've done a couple of interviews with ABC, like the Daily Mail and stuff, and they just it was sort of like. So what happened, when I got clean and sober, I started a charity called Brothers for Recovery, and I travelled around Australia for 3 or 4 years doing drug and alcohol talks to jails and schools and things like that. So they did an interview on me, but there's been some dark times where I've ended up in, psychiatric treatment centres and stuff. And when the own choice on what you want to do is out of your hands now, it's pretty crappy, you know what I mean? You can't even open your door to go for a walk outside. They don't let you, you know what I mean? So there's been some times.
Fast forward to now, none of us knew you back then. So we've only ever known you to be sober, fully sober, more sober than anybody that we know. We won't even have a beer, which is, you know what, it's cool. That's great, whatever. Each to their own. And I've only really known you since coming into the store and training. Is it like 7 or 8 years now that you're sober?
Yeah, coming up on 8 years.
Yeah, which is amazing. A really, really good achievement there. And that's where we're going to lead into the next part, is where you introduced me and Aria to where you work.
Yeah.
Which is the Glen.
Yep.
Which is a drug and alcohol rehab for Indigenous and non-Indigenous people.
Yeah.
Which is a 12-week program.
Yep.
Which we've come out and we've spoke to their clients there that have been going through the 12-week program on the benefits of us training and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which has been great. We get a massive kick out of it. But yeah, can you explain to us how that program, how you got involved there?
Yeah. So, as I said, my wife fell pregnant, and then really quickly she found out what I was like. Yeah. And she said, well, I'm going up to the Central Coast. My mum and dad live up there. my mum and dad live up there, and you know, you can't even look after yourself. You're not going to look after a baby. And I still remember just pretty much saying, well, you know, you're just like everyone else that leaves me, like, fuck off, pretty much. Like, you can go too. And she moved up here, and it wasn't long after I said, well, let me come up. I'll try and get help. You know what I mean? I'll try and stop drugs and alcohol. And this was a point in time, man, like, I know we're going to the next part, but she's never been in amongst that. Like, she's not a drinker. She's never been around drugs. You know what I mean? Like, I've probably seen her drunk. We've been together over 10 years, and I've seen her drunk like twice.
Yeah.
And, man,
it's probably like three wines.
Three. Yeah. She'd be like, "You've been awake for 6 days now. What's wrong?" Like, you know what I mean? And she'd be pregnant, following ambulances to different towns where I was having like mini heart attacks on ice and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And so when she moved down, I said, "I'll come down and get help." So she was well aware at now what my life was like. By the time I got down here, she had my first daughter, London, and then my second daughter, Lyric. They're only sort of 18 months apart, but the first year of my first daughter's life, I wasn't there. Like, I pretty much cut the umbilical cord and took off. I'd come back home for a rest. I'd make out like I was a great father, but I wasn't there emotionally, mentally, spiritually, nothing. Like, and until I got sober, I didn't know the extent of how bad it was, because even, you know, Zara, my wife, she said, whenever you even picked up London, you know, it made me feel sick in the stomach because I didn't know if you're going to drop her. I didn't know if you're going to roll on her off your face and kill her, and like, so it was pretty eye opening for her to tell me that stuff. Yeah. And it got to a point where a couple of boys I knew had been through the Glen, and I'd seen them on social media and stuff, and man, they just seemed so happy all the time. They were always out doing things. I could never do anything because I had no money, which obviously I had to resort to crime. You know what I mean, to do what I had to do, and I was watching my wife one night, and honestly, it was a surreal experience. It was like an out of body experience. She was pregnant with Lyric, my second daughter, and she was playing with London, and I was just sitting there watching, and she looked so happy and playing with her, and I was just like, I can't do that. I was like, that looks. I was like, I want to be a part of that, but I can't. I'm damaged. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I rang me mate, and I said, what do I do? Like, I'm over it, you know what I mean? And he goes, "Oh, you're not done." And I was like, no, I'm done. I've had enough, you know what I mean? So he picked me up and took me out to the Glen, you know what I mean? And I sat around the fire there, which you have sat around. Mm-hmm.
So you went through the Glen process?
I went out to the Glen. My first time out to the Glen was an AA meeting.
Gotcha.
So it was open to the community on a Sunday night.
Yep.
And he picked me up and he took me out there, and I sat around the fire, and there was about 30, 40 men sitting around the fire, and they were all sharing their experiences, their strength, their hope. You know, I was listening to blokes who were 10 days sober, and then I'd listen to blokes who would share. And some blokes would go, "Oh, I'm 35 days sober." And I'd go, "How the fuck do you get 35 days sober?" You know what I mean? Now I'm nearly 8 years, but I'd listen. And then some blokes would be like, "I'm 25 years sober." I'm like, "Well, what are you still doing here?" Like, you know what I mean? But it was because that's what worked for them. And it's weird, but as I said, I was a kid who never felt like I fit in. I've always felt less than an outcast, a black sheep. I just never felt like I fit in anywhere. Yeah. And that was honestly the first. I cried my eyes out around the fire. I didn't know where to go. I was suicidal. I was homicidal. I was done. You know what I mean? Once I went through it, I was about $60,000 or $70,000 in cash loan debts, payday loans. Yeah. You know what I mean? Just for drugs. Yeah. I didn't know half of them, and I just kept going back and back and back. I was literally at the Glen every single day for 12 months. For 12 months flat, I wouldn't leave it. It was like I got babied through the whole situation, you know what I mean? And things just started to turn for me. I started to feel better. People started to come back into my life. I started to have more meaningful conversations. And I ended up growing to love the life of recovery. You know what I mean? The very small, simple things of going to the beach and feeling the sun on your face at 7 a.m. having a coffee. Like, it was like a feeling I couldn't explain.
Yeah, I can imagine. And, man, it trips me out how amazing that Glen is set up. Like, honestly, remember, I wasn't joking when I said I was there the other week, and I was like, if I was ever getting ready for a show again, I'm dead set coming here. Like, you've got like a mad gym set up. You've got good food set up. You've got good people talking. There's a pool table. There's music. I'm like, this is amazing. Like,
it's a good
I
place.
think
man.
it is. It's cracker. And sitting around that fire, like I'm not many people have done that. Oh, there's probably been a few, but like it's a vibe. It dead set is. You've got this fucking
it's a home,
fire blowing in front of you. You've got these people circle around you, and they're all focusing on you and your story. It gets heavy.
Yeah. It's heavy, man, but it's such
like
a safe place.
Me and Ari get nervous to come out there because we've never really had a story like these people, and we're not going to sit there and try and pretend we're coming from a background of addiction of drugs and alcohol. So we can only share what we can share, and we're thinking these guys are going to think you guys are idiots.
The last one was the best. You got Slip blasting everyone. I'll kick you out. I don't care. Then Joey's like, I'm not kick out. I'll put you in the car, flog you on the way. And he's Ari and Dax are talking about supplements and training.
Yeah,
like,
and then Dax, you want to go, and I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to top that. I'm not going to blow up at you.
I can understand where that comes from because you got like those people in there. Like it's not going to take much for them to fall back off the rails, right? No. So if you got a couple in there who are kind of tempting them and getting them to maybe fall off, that would be a pain in the ass.
Well, but they've also been given an amazing opportunity.
100%.
Like I just said, that place. They're coming for addiction. They've been put in a place where they've got food, training facility. It's got a better gym than most gyms. Like you've created a mad gym in there.
And you know what? It wasn't
what a place to be sober and hang out with good people and chat all day.
Yeah, but
fucking amazing.
With the background of the Glen,
get out.
With the background of the Glen, it always wasn't like that. You can probably see how enriched we are in the community. You know what I mean. But the Glen's 30 years old this year. And it started from an old Aboriginal fella from Burke, and he moved to the Central Coast, and his son got sober, and he was a parole officer, and his son got sober, and his name was Glenn, and he was driving to an AA meeting on a bus, and he crashed and died.
Yeah, right.
So he's like, I need to do something, you know what I mean? I need to do something, for my son. So he sort of looked around, he goes, I need to... So he was working for parole, and all he noticed was Aboriginal people coming out of jail from addiction and going back into jail because of addiction behaviours, committing crimes while addicted to drugs and alcohol. So he thought, well, why not rehab? Why don't we create a rehab? Yeah. So they found the place, obviously the Glen where it is now, and as you know, it's a pretty spiritual, pretty special place. It's like a big home, right? It's like a farm. And they got the property, and they pretty much said, well, you can have that, but the whole community, they had a rally about it, and still today they reckon it was one of the most highest attended rallies on the coast, and it wasn't in favour of the Glen. So if you could imagine 30 years ago, they said, right, just out Chitaway here, where it's located, all the houses around, we're going to put an Aboriginal men's drug rehab there. It wasn't for the Glen. But today, like, they're the first people we call to come to their events. We go to schools, we go to community events, they do dances, we're in the local touch comps and soccer comps.
We had, like that, you got 4 of the guys to come out and help us with our a clip that we done with the shirts. They didn't hesitate, they're like, done.
Yeah.
We literally organised it in 24 hours.
Yeah, when the boys go on the outings and stuff, they love wearing the Glen uniform. They just love it. It's a special place, man, but it is.
And you and Joey that run it now, you guys both went through it.
Yeah, so Joey only finished recently. Yeah. Joey's got his own story where you could probably interview him one day. He's been through a lot, Joey. But me and another bloke, Azza, we manage the place. Yeah. And so I'm the operations manager and Azza's program manager. And then Joey's he manages transition clients. Yeah. So guys who have finished the 12 weeks but then trying to really transition back into community. Yeah. And then we've got probably 6 or 7 other therapeutic caseworkers. Yeah. But it's a special program, man. And you know what? But when we say it's a special program, it's set up. So there's nothing they have to do in that program really where I'm not required or you're not required to do it at home. Like literally you've got to wake up and you've got to make your bed. Yeah. Then you've got to go and get ready for the day. You can't stay in your pajamas past 8 o'clock or anything like that. You've got to get up at 7.
Setting a routine.
It's all about routine.
For sure.
It's all about your routine. So you get up early, you make your bed, you have a breakfast, you have a wash. We do our morning group at 8:30 every single morning, which you've been a part of, till 9:30. They'll have a half-hour break before 10. And then 10 till lunchtime, it's work. Yeah. So we don't hire any yards people, cooks, cleaners, washers, anything like that. The boys get allocated jobs, and if they don't know how to do them, then they're taught how to do them. Yeah. So it's pretty much like at work. You wake up in the morning, you make your bed, you go do some training, you have brekkie, and you go to work. So that's what the routine is. Yeah. After lunch, where they get fed. So they do the cooking as well. So a couple of people do the cook for the whole crew, and then after lunch it's always an activity. You know, it might be touch football, might be a swim at the beach, might be 10-pin bowling or indoor sports, and then at night time we bus up and we go off to AA and NA meetings.
Yeah, this may sound like a weird question, but how your addiction was back? Do you say like you're easily addicted to stuff? Okay, cool. I'm glad that came out the right way.
Yeah.
Do you find training now and eating clean and being the healthy lifestyle that you live is addictive?
Yes.
I get asked that question a fair bit, and I'm like, I think so.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's the only way I've ever really known since I was a young kid. It's like I'm probably addicted to it, but I love it.
You are.
Oh, what makes you say that?
No,
I think Ari will probably back you on that one. Yeah,
I think
get
most
it.
people have addictive behaviours, right?
Yeah, cool. So do you find the way you get up, and we're talking about routine, you are a routine person. We literally have a group chat. We're both talking to each other at 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
We're both getting up, mixing our pre-workouts, going to the gym training, having our first meal of the day and getting on with the day.
Yeah.
Is that your new addiction? And do you get as much buzz out of this as you did? I guess it's a different buzz. To the shit
probably
that
not
was
a
in the
different
past.
buzz because I'm not trying to. I'm not training or doing it today to combat something else.
Yeah, you just love it.
I genuinely love it, but I love not what it does for me. I love what it does for my wife, my children,
For sure.
my work. It helps me keep kicking goals.
Yeah.
Like as I said, I'm nearly 8 years clean and sober, but I've only been training for probably 4.
Yeah.
For the first 4 years of my recovery, it was really, I don't know. I guess it was my learning phase, but I blew out. I was pretty large. Like I was eating what I want. I didn't train for like 4 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like literally, I wouldn't go inside a gym. So I wasn't healthy. I wasn't. And what I noticed is I was going to the beach with my wife. I wouldn't take my shirt off. I'd sit back on the sandhills while they'd go swim with the kids. And I was like, something's got to change here. Like, you know what I mean? I'm clean and sober. I'm 4 years. I'm 121 kilos, sitting here eating pies, watching the kids swim in the beach. Like, so I said to my wife, I said, I'm gonna go sign up to a gym. And I don't know why, but it was at Jets at San Remo. And I didn't know how to do weights properly. I trained for football a lot, but I really knew weights. So I'd go at 4 in the morning because I had to with work.
Yeah.
And the kids. So we had 3 daughters within 4 years, so it was pretty busy. So I just went at 4 a.m.
You were busy.
Yeah, we were busy. And I went at 4 a.m. only because I had to go to work at 7. I was like, well, that'll give me time. And at the start, I was like, I can't keep this up. It's a bit of a crazy time. Yeah. But immediately, I found it worked.
Yeah,
it worked really well. And at 4 a.m., 4:30 in the morning, I had YouTube on my phone, like how to do weights properly. And this was like 4 years ago. And then I was like, all right. And then I was speaking to my dad, because my dad back in the day, he used to own a gym when he was younger and he loved it, you know. And he said, you need to go and get some protein or something. I was like, oh, all right, sweet. So I asked a couple of boys and they mentioned your shop, and then I suppose I went in there, and then I think AA and NA sort of saved my life. But I truly believe that getting a routine and training, implementing training and food into my life better has kept me clean and sober.
For sure.
100%.
I think, like, touching back on what you said before, Dax, about being addicted to feeling good, and you probably get this a lot as well. For people like us, a lot of general people don't understand the fact that every weekend we don't like to go and drink alcohol. We don't like to go and have big nights, you know, and they look at us like, why don't you just let your hair down? Like, why don't you like to do it? And it's like, you'd probably be the same. For me, like, I feel so bad the next day after that. Like, you're hungover, you miss all your meals. The byproduct of that, your hormones go all over the place. You're tired. Yeah. Monday rolls around, you still feel like that. Yeah. And it's like, I think what you said, you get addicted to feeling good. And then like even when I know I've got a big night coming up for a mate's birthday or whatever it is, I'm like, oh man, all right, I've got to nail everything this week. So at least I can, like, go out and still have some fun. But like, I know the next day, all right, things going to be a bit off. I'm going to not feel 100%, not going to perform the best. Monday's going to roll around, not going to be able to tackle it nice and sharp. It's just like, you kind of prepare yourself for it because you know how bad you are potentially going to feel.
Yeah. It's an anxious feeling.
Yeah.
That's just what I was trying to touch on when you said you're going to find it hard for it to work. I think a lot of people don't give the opportunity or the chance to make it work. And you know what? I can't speak on behalf of everybody because I don't have kids, and I guess having kids throws a big spanner in the works trying to fit your routine in with training. But if you can find at least 45 minutes a day or half an hour to train, you're going to feel so much better throughout the day. Even if you train in the morning, afternoon, the benefits, like you said before, has set you on the straight and narrow still, and it's kept you sober. You know what I mean? It's led you into a new industry, and this industry can be out there.
It's tiring.
There's a lot of things in this industry that spin a lot of people out.
Yeah.
I get that. I mean, we've been in it for so long. We just see through the bullshit. We just enjoy the things that we do and the things that we can help with our clients and our staff and people, our customers. But you still feel so much better carrying on through. And we see this time and time again with people. Not if they're not just people that come from an addicted background, but people have just never been healthy or trained.
Yeah, I think what it done for me was when I started to come to use, because I was like, well, I'm actually liking this a little bit more, and I want to kick it up a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want to know how to train properly. I want to know what body parts to train with what body parts. I want to know how to do sets. I want to know how to train properly and eat properly. But when I remember when I first come to you, you're like, man, all you need to do is the basics.
Yep.
Literally train. When you train with intensity.
Yep.
And when you eat clean.
Yeah.
And when you sleep, try and have a good sleep. And that was literally it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It was like, when you train, have a crack.
Yeah.
When you eat clean, and
course.
have a good sleep.
Yeah.
And I was like, that sounds pretty good.
Well, you know what? It's till this day, I believe that's exactly it. It's just people overthink it and overcomplicate the process of it.
I guess what it does, but with my sobriety and my recovery, I can tell you now, all the clients that come through, they come to me about the drug and alcohol stuff, but they come to me more about implementing routine and discipline into their lives because they see me training. Mm-hmm. They see my routine in my life, and that's what they want.
Yeah.
They come to me every now and then, obviously, about what do you do in this situation, drugs and alcohol, but I'm telling 90% of the time it's about my training life now.
Yeah.
How much
it's good that they can look up to you like that.
100%.
Because there's a saying that it's something like make time for your health and fitness before you're forced to make time for your health and fitness. So basically, make time to be fit and healthy before something happens and the doctor's saying you have to do this right now. It's like,
well, you've heard me say to the clients here, like a lot of ones that they just come in, they'll feel an emotion, right? Whether it's anger, happiness, sadness, whatever it is, and they'll go to the doctor. They'll make an appointment with their doctor. They'll go to the doctor and say, I need this, I need sleep medication, I need this, I need this. No, you don't.
Yeah.
You've got an emotion. What you need to do is set your alarm early, have a nice meal, go and do some form of exercise, whether it's a 30-minute walk, whether it's you punch the bag for 5 minutes, and then come and tell me how you feel. Like literally, that's a GP in that place.
Yeah,
it really
literally.
is. I understand we get blokes with all complex needs as well, whether you've got diagnosis, and yes, you do need GP and medication.
Yeah.
But the emotion stuff, the feeling stuff,
Yeah.
go in the gym or
Yeah.
get outside and put your jogs on, go for a walk,
For
go for
sure.
a swim, do something.
For sure.
I agree. I'm a big believer in when people start to get anxious and depressed and things like that. It's a build-up of energy and a build-up of emotion. And if you don't do anything to release that, what's going to happen? It's going to keep building up until you have a complete mental breakdown, something happens to your health. If you're not doing anything to release that energy, it's just going to keep coming and coming till, like I said, it blows up and shit hits the fan.
Oh, man, sometimes I go to work and it could be 9, 10 in the morning, and if I'm a bit picky at the clients, you know what I mean, they'll be like, Slip, you didn't train this morning, did you? Like, no, I didn't. Or it could be like 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and if I'm not myself at night, like Zara would be like, can you go to the gym?
Yeah. See, the thing is too, not everybody understands the way we do our life and our lifestyle. And you know what? I respect it. I get it. But for the people that do understand what we do, training, eating healthy, exercise, they know exactly how it feels and how good they feel. And they're the people that will tell other people, and then like yourself, and that carries on. And then if those people give a bit of a chance to try it out, then they're addicted. They get addicted most of the time.
Yeah, and it's...
Do you know what I mean? It's some of those other people are like, nah, it's not me. It's not me.
Yeah.
And they'll never give it a chance, and they'll never know how
Never
good
give
it
it a
is
chance.
to live a healthier lifestyle. And it's upsetting.
It is, because
They'll always be looking for a high somehow.
Oh, 100%.
Or an outlet.
You've
and
heard
they
me
may never
talk to the
find it.
clients, you know what I mean? And some of the clients we get, if they're in that 12-week program, we've got a really good gym there. Or you've got a lot of space where you can go walking.
For sure.
And they're not giving themselves a chance to even experience it.
For sure.
And I say to them, one of the only scientifically proven things in this world is if you move your body, you feel better.
For sure. And they may look at us and think, oh, these guys are just talking about lifting weights. But like you said before, it's anything. Hitting a bag, going for a run, going for a walk. I don't know.
Just releasing energy.
Just releasing energy
yeah.
and just moving.
And there's other forms as well with people in recovery. Like, I don't speak about it too much, but, you know, every week I'm at an AA or an NA meeting too. You know, a morning, a middle of the day or a night. I'm travelling, you know what I mean? I'm sitting in rooms doing AA and NA, and I'm, you know what I mean? I'm coming up to 8 years, but I'll still do it every week.
Yeah, it's
because
like
I need
my
to.
mate, Johnny that we spoke about.
Yeah.
20, how many years?
Yeah, he's over 20 years, Johnny.
But he still does.
Good person, man.
Yeah, he's a legend.
Yeah.
Great
Mad
guy.
as.
But he's mad as a cut snake. But he still talks about it, and that's his release. Like, he's been over 20 years.
He still goes every
But
week.
do you guys have that thought in the back of your head still? Like, it's triggering a little bit, and it's a release for you to be able to still.
Yeah. I still get, not as bad as before, but I still get sometimes some urges.
Yeah.
You know, if things are, because a lot of people think if you stop drinking and drugging, then your life just gives you all rainbows and roses, and it doesn't. Like, the same shit still happens, but when you don't drink and drug, all it does is give you a chance to respond better.
Yeah.
To react better, to make a different move that's not going to impact you worse off, you know what I mean? So I still get, you know, whether it's relationships, parenting, financial, employment, all the stresses of life, they're still there. But the only reason we react different now is because we're not affected by drugs or alcohol with it. But you still get urges. Sometimes if you're driving home on a hot summer's day and you can see a few blokes sitting on the, you know, out on the balcony of a pub having a beer, you're like, oh, that looks nice. And I'll be like, nah.
Yeah.
Like you said before, you're like, if you know you want to have a beer on the weekend, you're going to prepare for it and stuff like that. And people think automatically, because I'm in recovery, I hate people who drink and drug. Like, I don't. So many of my best mates still drink or use party drugs.
Same with us too.
And that's okay.
And absolutely. Everyone lives the lifestyle they want to live. But and we don't judge people like that, you know, we don't. And it's just, but like, this is the life that we live, and if you want to give it a crack, I guarantee you're going to feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, and like you said, you're prepared for it and stuff. But all I know is I can't do that. They can. Like,
it's
you
different.
can have a nice
It's different
drink,
to
you know
say
what I
something like me and Ara or something like, well, fuck, I wouldn't mind a VB.
Yeah, and you
even
could
though
have
I hate
one, right?
VB, but we could maybe have a couple and be done with it.
Yeah.
Where
But
you're
if
like,
I have one, right?
Yeah, it could.
I'm not going home for 6-7 days. Zara's on Facebook. Has anyone seen Steve? Haven't seen him for a week.
It's totally different.
There's no money in the bank account. I've robbed people.
Just
you
not
know what
worth
I mean?
it.
Like, that's what happens.
Yeah, I get you, 100%.
And it got to the point where I couldn't even smell a beer before I'm looking for drugs. You know what I mean?
So 2 questions just to close it off. The first one, what would be a piece of advice you'd tell your 18-year-old self?
A piece of advice I'd tell my 18-year-old self: communicate better. Yeah, communication is everything. I didn't communicate well to anyone. I wouldn't tell anyone what's going on, whether it was good, bad, sad, whatever. I think communication is the key for a lot of things. I've never met anyone change their life by not speaking to someone. So probably communication. You've probably got times in your own life, you know what I mean, where you're like, you don't talk to someone for 1 or 2 days and you're like, I'll speak to them soon about it, and then it gets further and further and it never happens and that relationship dies. It's the same with problems and growing up or traumas or anything like that. I think I'd encourage my 18-year-old self to communicate.
And second question, if there is people out there, because a lot of people with addictions, drug and alcohol, whatever it is, deep down they know they've got a problem, right? But they don't want to admit it. They keep it to themselves. They show up on a Monday in a nice flashy suit, pretend the world's all sunshine and rainbows. What would you say to someone like that, like who knows that deep down they really do need to change their life, but they don't want to admit that there is an actual addiction there? What would you say to someone like that?
I'm really big on self-reflection now, and I like to tell people to go and stare in the mirror for 10 minutes, and just say, are you the person that you'd want to rely on? You know what I mean? And I tell a lot of people that come to me now, you know what I mean? Like, I could easily drive home from this podcast and I could put 500 in the pokies and have a beer and no one would ever know, but I would. And you can't deal with that anymore. So if you want to be the person that you would like to be relied on, then go and look in the mirror for 10 minutes. And if you're not that person, then make some moves.
Beautiful. Slip, thank you very much, mate. Appreciate it. You've
Steve, actually.
Stephen, you're doing good things, mate, up at the Glen, and you're changing a lot of men's lives, and it's good to see. Like, even when we come up and do the talk, like, the amount of respect those lads look at you with, they want to get to where you're at, which is good to see. So
just quick, also, there is a women's Glen, yeah?
It's been open for 2 years now.
Wild.
Yeah, it's about 15 minutes from the men's side. It's been open for 2 years now, and they're going good, man.
I've met a couple.
Yeah, they're going good.
Come in the store,
Yeah, I do a little bit of stuff out there sometimes with the women and the workers, and
cool.
It's a lot flashier than the men's old joint.
I don't know. The gym's pretty sick.
Well, yeah, if anyone out there is struggling with addiction, drug, alcohol, don't be afraid to reach out and get help. There is plenty of places that can do that for you. Till the next one. See you then.